We introduce you to successful entrepreneurs who have uh, over the past whatever the journey learned a few tricks of the trade, and we hope that they'll be able to pass it on to you. Today's speaker is Rishikesh Datar. Rishikesh Datar is actually a lawyer by training, and he graduated from the National Law School in Bangalore, and he has established wakilsearch.com in 2010, and since then his company has grown from a small operation to over uh, uh, from what I read about him recently, that they do about 10% of all the company registrations which happen in our country today, which is quite an achievement in such a short time. Uh, this session is supposed to be interactive. I would encourage all of you to ask as many questions as you can. And uh, I have seen Rishikesh's multiple presentations, and he's a very good speaker, and he really knows his stuff. At least the legal stuff he definitely knows, but let us try to learn from him about his entrepreneurial journey. So over to you, Rishikesh.
Thank you so much, Shantanu, for those extraordinarily kind words. Right, you should join our board. I want our investors also to, and our board members to be equally kind and compassionate. But all jokes apart, it's a real pleasure to be here. Happy to see that there are quite a few people. It's the middle of the evening, I know, so you guys have a lot of work to get back to. We will keep this conversation highly interactive. That's the only way I think we should do this. Would like to very quickly understand. I know all of you are at some stage of your college education, so you're probably going to be finishing up in the next 1, 2, 3 years by the looks of it. Right? So I want to quickly get 1 or 2 people to just quickly jump in and share their comments. Like 1 or 2 people who are looking at becoming entrepreneurs. Right? Just quickly jump in and share your comments. Would like to get that as a conversation starter, and then I'll keep giving my thoughts as we go along. I'm going to keep requesting you guys to jump in with questions. So that I can cover as many of your thoughts and processes as we go along through this short conversation. But anybody, any one person, if you can just jump in with, if you're looking at getting into entrepreneurship, why are you looking at getting into entrepreneurship, and what is driving you towards it? Anybody, guys, just a quick jump in.
Yeah, I can go ahead. So I'm currently in 4th year. So one of the purpose which drives me towards entrepreneurship is definitely problem solving and using my technical skills to bring a change. Maybe it's a small or a big, but bringing a change is something I really look forward to.
Thanks, Anupam. Thank you. Much appreciated. Anybody else, guys? Yes, Mr. Jagannathan.
Jagannathan?
Yes, sir.
Actually, I'm a faculty of civil engineering. And actually, I want to know, nowadays, because you're from the legal side, I'm asking this question. Actually, if you want to register, go to any register office, everywhere some bribe is available. Is there any possibility to have some business without giving any bribe and doing it in time?
Sure. Well, I think the good news is, and I think this is the problem statement, right? You rightly pointed out the problem statement in India is that legal tax and compliance is expensive, it's unreliable, and it's inconvenient. It's very difficult in many ways to get your legal tax and compliance work done. But the good news, however, is that in the last 5, 6 years, what we have seen is that we have seen tremendous transformation. We have seen that overall the corruption has gone down. Since 2015 particularly, the corruption in government offices has gone down. The corruption to get stuff done has definitely come down. For example, incorporating a company is pretty much a flawless process now. You don't really have to encounter any kind of bribery to set up a company. There are, however, pockets where there are challenges. There are certain services, certain areas, certain departments where challenges continue to persist. But it is more and more increasingly possible to start a business and run a business today without paying a bribe. To come to Anupam's point about why he's starting the business, I think those are good reasons, Anupam. So I'm happy to hear that your major reason to start a business is to disrupt or to make a change. Right? I think that's the best reason to start a business. Having said that, what you would really need to do is to understand whether the problem you're trying to solve has a market. Very often in very many businesses, they go into trying to solve a problem, but the problem doesn't have a market. Right? or if the market exists, people don't necessarily want to pay for that product or solution. And that's a difficult place to be. So when you're going into entrepreneurship, my just 2 cents of advice would be, and I would, dispute what Shantanu said to begin with. I don't consider myself, we consider every day to be day one, right? Every day is a new beginning, because the moment we decide, we realize, the moment we feel that, we have done something, at that moment you stop trying and you stop striving. So at that moment, your business starts failing, right? So for us, every day is day one. We still believe that we have a very, very, very long way to go. But one thing that we know for a fact is that Indian consumers need what we are trying to offer them. So Anupam, with regard to your point, just make sure that the product or solution you're trying to take to the market, there is the people who are willing to pay for that product or solution. Ultimately, that's the biggest differentiator. Right. So I'll just quickly introduce you to what Vakil Search does, and then I'll again take a pause. I want to again hear some more questions. So Vakil Search is India's, we are humbled to be India's largest legal tax and compliance platform. We are like an Amazon for legal services. So like you go to Amazon to buy, say, a pair of shoes, or to buy, today, literally anything on Amazon. You would go to Vakil Search to get your company incorporated, to get your trademark registered, to get your legal documentation done, to get your GST registered, to get your GST filed, and so on and so forth. Again, we have been very lucky and very privileged. We have the trust of a large number of Indian consumers. In fact, we are the largest legal tax and compliance platform for things like incorporation in India. So we have, again, it's just a matter of we are enjoying the trust and privilege of having the consumer's trust, and we are working every day to sort of continue holding the customer's trust. So that's what Vakil Search does. These are the problems which we are trying to solve, and every day is day one. So I want to just quickly circle back to the group. Right? How many of you are in the commerce line, and how many of you are in the engineering line? So maybe one person who is in the commerce or allied lines, and if there's anybody of that nature, and one person who's on the engineering line. So I'd like to understand, and if you're looking at getting into a business, what kind of business are you looking at getting into? I want to just understand what your thought processes are. So any one person or any two people, you can just share your business idea in, don't share any confidential information. And by the way, your information is safe with me, but please jump in and share what your business idea is and how you're planning to scale it up. Just in maybe a line or two.
Yeah. I think most of these are engineering students, but go ahead, Neil, go ahead.
Sure. So I'll discuss about my idea. So we are trying to make an IoT based startup. So we are making an IoT device that would be used to track the inventory for the restaurants and household kitchens. So we have made a smart scale that undergoes your containers and that tracks your weight of the items, and it updates automatically to the user. So that's what our idea that you're working on.
Understood. Have you checked out Microsoft Surface, by the way, the older Surface, which had something similar in terms of
but yeah, actually we have seen Amazon Dash, which has recently came into market in US. It's kind of a similar idea that has been working.
Awesome. Okay, very, very nice. I'll come back to you in a minute, Neil. Anybody else?
I can go. Hi, Rishikesh. Thank you so much for sharing so far. My name is Anushka, and my startup is actually a little bit different. So we collect surplus bread from bakeries, and we use that to brew local craft beer. So it's a different application of technology in its own form. And to answer your question about how to scale it, I think the answer is in the fact that it's a beverage that a lot of us, if not all of us, like to consume. So you don't have to do much to sell it.
Okay, first of all, I could be a consumer, but we can take that conversation offline.
Sure.
No, I'll come to what Neil said to begin with, right? So when you look at product ideas, right, there are product ideas which, for example, find their own market, and there are product ideas where you have to actually go and find consumers. I disagree with Anushka on one point. Even a product like beer, right? There are so many companies which are trying to sell beer. Not all of them succeed like a Kingfisher has. Not all of them succeed like a Bira has, right? So ultimately, products need to be sold, no matter how good the product is. Unless you're selling water in a desert, every consumer has choice, and every consumer has lots of choice today. Right? So what's really going to differentiate your application is what is it that you're doing that's unique to the customer. There's something called the Zulu principle. You guys must read about it. The Zulu principle dictates that you must try to be the best in the world at one thing, right? And that one thing should differentiate you from everybody else. It is very easy to say, it's very hard to do. But to take Anushka's point or to take Neil's point, how would that craft beer, for example, be different from the other craft beer in the market? Would it, for example, have a Banganpalli mango flavoring, right? Would it, for example, be delivered on, would it be delivered in Tetra packs, right? What is that one? It could be a packaging differentiator. It could be a product differentiator. It could be a taste differentiator, right? All of those are potential differentiators. So what is it that's going to differentiate your product from every other product in the market? That is super important to understand. Once you understand that, then you need to build on that. So virtually all companies, they build a product identity. I'm sure all of you have heard of brands like a BMW or say a Mercedes-Benz, right? They have stand for a certain product proposition in the market. So BMW means you like to drive. Mercedes means you like luxury. So what is your product standing for? That's also very, very important. We try to stand for legal is now simple, which is to say we are standing for the simplicity of the offering, and we try to make our application simpler and simpler and simpler. Again, we have a long way to go, but that's our focus. That's our sort of thrust. That's where we are going. Similarly, Anushka and Neil, focus on that one thing which is going to differentiate you from everybody else in the market. Why should consumers not buy a Kingfisher, or Kingfisher is not a craft beer? Why should they not buy a Bira? Why should they not buy one of those 100 other beers out there in the market? Right? What is differentiating you from all the others? That's something which you need to really think about, because that's important. To build your product identity, that's important to get your first. They always say the first 1,000 customers or the first 100 customers are the differentiators. Once you get 100 customers, it's a matter of replicating what you did for those 100 customers. So remember that. Try to get those first 100 customers and then build on that. Right. So this is great. I can see that there are quite a few customers, and these are interesting ideas, by the way. Both the IoT idea and the craft beer idea are very interesting. And so any other ideas which any of you want to share, please jump in, and I'll again pause here for a minute or two to hear your ideas before proceeding further.
As you told, I'm Jagannathan. Is it possible to have a service center to register to all the government-related dogs without giving any bribe?
No, definitely. I mean, I think as Indians, all of us are tired of giving bribes, right? All of us have, many of all these, I think the students on this call are extremely young, but anyone who's been doing business for a while knows that, yes, it's a reality in India that certain sort of rewards and out-of-pocket expenses have to be paid from time to time to get work done. But it is changing. Like as a company at Vakil Search, we have literally, and I can say this with full confidence, we have not gone and directly paid a bribe to any government officer, right? Sometimes it means that the process takes a little longer, of course, but that's a call you have to take. That's a call which your client has to take, right? So theoretically, it is possible. You pay the price for it, by the way, right? Not all customers are happy about it, but that's a call which you have to take, and it's possible, sir, in India now. It's increasingly possible to do business without paying a bribe. It's not easy, but it's possible.
No. Actually, how they are delaying you like anything, and finally they make you to exhaust and pay the money for them.
Correct. Yeah, it just depends on how much you're willing to get exhausted at the end of the day. But no, I'm not. Honestly, I'm not going to take a moral view on the matter. We don't think, because we have raised foreign investment, we are not legally allowed to pay a bribe. Right? As far as our legal, it's not legally possible for Vakil Search to pay a bribe because we have raised money abroad, and our investors have very strict rules as to what you can and what you cannot do. So we cannot do it. Right? Even if morally, even if I'm against it or for it, I don't have a view on the matter at the moment, but we cannot do it legally. And I can tell you for a fact that in 99% of cases with our customers, it works. In 1% of cases, customers are obviously not happy, and when customers are unhappy in India, you know what they do, right? They go on social media, they talk about it, etc. But that doesn't concern us, right? We have to do what we have to do. So to answer your question, I want to give you some positive news. It is possible in India today to go ahead and start a business and not have to pay a bribe for the most part. Of course, the government officers may, in some cases, and there are a lot of honest government officers too. Some government officers may, of course, demand it, ask for it, but you have to be strong and you have to say no. I think that works in a lot of cases.
Actually, I want to start a service to people for them to get the work done through the government without giving any bribe. I want to do the service. Actually, I may be charging them, but I'm not going to pay any bribe to the government officials.
Got it. Got it. Sure. I mean, I think that's definitely
Registering.
possible.
We want to register a house. They'll demanding some 10,000 rupees, 15,000 rupees.
Right.
The servicing person may charge some 2,000 or 3,000 rupees, and they may go and come any number of times to get the work done.
Right. No, definitely, sir. I think you can do it. You can start your platform. You can encourage people to come to you and get them paying a bribe. And you can be that person who will keep talking to the government officer and convince them to do it without a bribe. I think it's a very noble cause, and you should definitely go ahead and do it. A lot of people, especially not businesses, but individuals who say want to get a ration card or who want to get some of their personal needs where the government officers are delaying or denying it, your service will be very useful. You should definitely do it.
All right, thank you.
Most welcome, most welcome. Anybody else, any other business ideas that you want to share, or a social initiative also, like Mr. Jagannathan shared? Any social initiative or business idea that you want to share? You want to discuss? Any of the guys or girls who haven't spoken yet? Or if you're even considering getting into entrepreneurship, but you're hesitating, right? If any of you are hesitating, any of you have any fears about getting into entrepreneurship, this would be a good time to jump in, right? And tell me what your fears are, what your concerns are, so I can maybe help you with that. Anybody?
Can I ask a question? So I have started
your
this.
Name, please? I'm not able
Yeah,
to
Neil. I'm Neil Desai. Hello.
Oh, Neil. Yeah, hi, Neil.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm audible. Yeah. So I had a question was regarding my startup. So I've been working on the startup for the past 1.5 years. But right now, once we are getting our customers and if we start a business, so what are the legal aspects that we should be concerned about while initially starting the business?
Sure. So you have to register the business first. That's the first aspect. After that, your core product IP, which is your IoT application,
Right.
you need to get it patented. That would be the second thing that I would recommend. Get a patent on the IoT application, on the product itself. Right.
Okay.
Thirdly, whatever your employees are, whoever your employees or your partners are, make sure that you sign very strong non-disclosure agreements with them, because your product, your business is an engineering business. Right? Ultimately, it's not raw material and inventory. It's all ideas and
Right.
all brain power. Right? That has to be protected. So get proper non-disclosure agreements signed and protected with all of your top partners, vendors, merchants, etc. And finally, when you're getting on board a client, try to sign a long-term agreement with them.
Okay.
Because clients would, especially in your line of business, you should try to look for long-term relationships, because when you look for investment, investors look for long-term relationships which you already have.
Okay.
Because investors want to see if you have a long-term revenue pipeline. Like today the money may be there, tomorrow will the money come? That's what investors are interested in. So make sure you try to build a long-term pipeline of some high-value clients, or even if you're going after small clients like Kirana stores, etc., or even individuals, right?
Yep.
Try to get 100 individual customers who are willing to talk to other people about your product. If you
Right.
get, they are called influencers.
Yeah.
And influencers are very important. If you get 100 influencers who will tell other, like, people who are at home now, who will use your application, and if you then tie up with, say, a Dunzo, so the moment my stock of tur dal is going down, it will automatically tell a Dunzo to order more tur dal from the nearest store or Big Basket or whoever. If you tie up with a Big Basket or a Dunzo, and when you tie up with Big Basket or Dunzo, make sure that your agreements are very, very strong, because many of them may ask to see your product in a demo, right? And they may build the product on their own. You don't want that to happen.
Okay.
Make sure that if you're doing a demo with them, make sure that you've got all the necessary protections before you do the demo with them.
And when we say about long-term agreements with the customer, so what do you mean by that? Like, what is actually considered as a long-term contract with the customer?
Say you're talking to a Dunzo, for example, right?
Yeah.
Talking to a Dunzo or a Big Basket. Try to get a 1 to 3 year commitment from them that they will have an API integration with your application. So, and they will give you priority treatment. So if you have some relationships, it doesn't have to be always a commercial relationship. If you have a long-term relationship with the Big Basket, where your customers are getting that added benefit, because the moment their supplies, say sugar, goes down, automatically it places an order for more sugar.
Right.
If that is happening and Big Basket is delivering it the next morning, it's a magical experience for the customer. So try to build a relationship where you can then showcase it to an investor saying, look, my customers enjoy a magical relationship, magical experience, because that's ultimately what customers will pay for.
Right. Got it. Thank
And
you.
India is a very price sensitive market, right? So if you're
Sure.
selling it to an Indian market, Indian customers, then your pricing has to be, of course, super
Very,
aggressive.
yeah. Sure. Thank you.
Most welcome. We are already at almost 5 o'clock, so we
Yeah, I
can
know.
we can take maybe a couple of more questions and
Sure. So actually, Rishikesh, I had a couple of questions for you,
Sure, Shantanu.
right? Tell us about your first client whom you managed to convince to use your services, and what were your difficulties and your feelings about acquiring that client?
So we were very lucky in that sense, right? So the day we launched our website, it was a lady from Kerala. She wanted to write a will. And so she actually came onto the platform and she paid for a will application to write a will. And it was literally on the first day of launching the website. So it was, in that sense, we were a little lucky. Obviously, the first year, customers were few and far between. But the first few customers actually found us and came online and bought the application on their own, bought the service on their own. Today, we are obviously very business focused. But our first customers, interestingly, were people looking for simple things for their personal needs, like rental agreements or writing their own will, right? Sending a consumer notice. So those were the days when we had, telecom legal notices were, even now they're very common, but telecom, sending notices to the telecom companies, right? Those were the kind of services which we found customers to pay for in the beginning. Over time, as we were able to build trust, a lot of businesses started coming to us. So in the last 4-5 years, for example, we have had the good fortune of working with Swiggy, working with Grofers, working with Taxi for Sure, working with Ola, working with Big Basket, right? So many of these companies have come to us over time. But the first few customers who came to us were, in fact, very interesting stories. Like these were, like the lady I told you from Kerala who was writing her will. She wanted to do it in secret. She didn't want her children to know about it. Interestingly enough, right? So she wanted an online service because she didn't want to go to their family lawyer,
Right.
who would then talk to her children about it. So obviously, I can't share any more information.
Sure.
But the context was that for her, the online service was freedom. Like she didn't have to worry about, will my children, will they find out about this, right? What's going to happen, etc. So for her, the online application, and she was fairly old at that time. So for her also to use an online service was a phenomenally rewarding experience. We were actually helping her get some things done and protect her own property and assets. So that was the first customer we actually worked with ever.
And then, of course, you've grown over the years. What was your biggest challenge in finding the correct teammates?
That's a very good question. I mean, that's ultimately the question which every bootstrap company has to answer, right? If you have a lot of investment, then people will come to you. But if you're looking at people joining you when you have little or no money in the bank, then it's difficult. I think what ultimately you have to sell to people is your own vision and passion. I think that's really what you have to ultimately get them to believe in what you believe in. In some sense, business is like religion, right? How do you get people to follow a religion or a cult? It's you have to get them to believe in what you believe in. So if you get them to believe in what your beliefs are, then they will start coming to you ultimately. And then you have to make sure that you empathize with your team, you show them love and respect, and you give them that space to grow on their own. Right? So in today's world, nobody likes a micromanaging boss who will dictate every little detail of what you do. So giving them that space while at the same time giving them goals which are exciting and inspiring, I think that is really the secret, in my opinion.
Okay. And then, of course, you just started talking about technology and its role in your startup or your company. So obviously, technology has changed dramatically since 2010 to what it is today, right? So just walk us through a little bit of how that has impacted your whole business plans and your vision.
So I think technology follows human behavior, right? Ultimately. So what we noticed and what you can see on my screen, for example, is our company incorporation workflow. So what we noticed in India was that for a lot of Indian consumers, their first experience with the internet was WhatsApp. right? The app which they spent most of their time on was chat applications, right? So we restructured our incorporation workflow to be a chat application. So what you're looking at is a chat-based incorporation workflow. And we tried to make it Indian consumers. We like color, so we are a very nice consumer segment to target, because Indian consumers like color, they like it to be vibrant, they like it to be lively. So we had to obviously make our product and application more designed to the Indian consumer segment. So we made it chat based. We put a lot of pictures, we made it lively. So those are things that you have to build for the market, you have to build for the consumer sentiment. And like I said, we are constantly learning. Every day we are learning new things, right? So technology never sits still, technology keeps evolving, but we try not to build for the sake of building. We try to build to follow human behavior. So if you notice, I mean, I think we spoke about Dunzo earlier today, but Dunzo for a long time was only a WhatsApp group. I don't know how many of you will believe it, but Dunzo was a WhatsApp group for the longest time. And after they got their first 100 customers, that's when they built an application. Until then, the Dunzo founder used to himself take orders on WhatsApp and then send people out onto the field to pick up and deliver. It was all WhatsApp based. They had a flat in Koramangala in Bangalore from where the entire application, from where the entire sort of process used to run. So build only when you need to build as much as you need to build. Don't build for the sake of building. That would be my feedback to everybody here.
Wonderful. Yeah. And then, of course, as you grew from a bootstrap company to then angel investing, and I guess you have raised money in subsequent rounds. What were the challenges at that time, and what made you eventually, go out and seek more funding?
For us, the major need was, technology and brand building. We had to build out a consumer brand in our space. That we had to make sure that every startup who was looking at starting up would think of Vakil Search, right? And that was the major reason. And of course, technology had to keep evolving. So those were the two reasons why we went out into the market to look for funding. We were very fortunate that we have got 3 rounds of funding now, and we are in fact in the process of closing our 4th round of funding. So it's been a very exciting, I would say, difficult, challenging journey. But what ultimately keeps working for us is that people believe in the product, people believe in the market, and people believe in India, the Indian story as well, right? So ultimately, fundamentally, those are the 3 things which work for us. And I'm very lucky to have a great team, a set of people who make the whole dream possible. So nothing would be possible by myself. Everything is possible because of the team.
Right. And then you also you did say that you made mistakes, and you continue to learn out of your mistakes. But then, what is the one mistake which you think gave you the ultimate push that, okay, this is something I'll never ever do again, and actually led to a positive impact on your company's growth?
I would say when you are in the corner, right, like between fundraising rounds, earlier on in our journey, when you're really pushed to the wall, right, that's when you introspect, right? That's what we all do. When you're comfortable, you get comfortable. But it's really at the times of hardship that we realize that, when we raised the first round of funding, we spent it rapidly building our tech stack, right? And the customers weren't coming as quickly. So some of the biggest challenges were, getting very, very exuberant, and then realizing that, we should have been more steady in our approach. And that was a very, very, very difficult moment for us, because then we had to literally evaluate what we were doing, our priorities, and then get back to the drawing board and again rebuild from there. So I would say that, the challenges are the pivotal moment for us was when we raised our first round of funding. We were very early on in our life cycle. We were not as strategic as we should have been, and that one learning is something that, again, I think learning never stops. But that's one learning that has been very useful to us in the subsequent years.
Excellent. Okay, if you want to continue with your presentation.
No, I think it's very good that the presentation was sort of mirroring what the audience was asking. I know that we're out of time, but
Yeah,
maybe
I know.
there's one last question. I'm happy to take it before we close.
Sure.
It's been very, very exciting to talk to you guys.
Yeah, hi. Can I take one question, sir?
Go ahead,
Sure,
Nikunj.
sure.
Yeah. So, the one thing what you have mentioned very nicely that the branding image in initial days when we create, I have observed many startups when they come up, no, they love with their prototype too much that they try to improvise more and more and build up more and more features.
Great.
Sometimes they lose their path. They forget that reaching out to the customers and asking them, instead of that they themselves realize that these are the feature missing and keep incorporating, and at the time they lose 2 years. What like they lose lots of time. So what do you want to suggest them? What they should approach should be for them?
It's a very difficult problem, Nikunj. To be honest, every company struggles with this because you will have the perfectionists and you will have the guys who want to go to the market immediately, right? Neither is the right approach because you go to the market and you don't have a service which can work, right? Customers will reject you. But if you go to the
Yeah.
market too late, you try to build the perfect solution, you'll run out of money, right? So you don't want to be in either of those situations. If you have all the money in the world, right, you can build out an ideal solution slowly and take it to market. But most businesses are dealing with the constraint of money and time. So what I would recommend is you need to get to something called a minimum viable product, MVP. Now, what the MVP is in your business is something which only you can decide, right? But the simple thing is what are customers going to pay you for? I to take the example of some of the business ideas we have seen today about the craft beer or about the IoT application. What are customers ultimately paying for? Are they paying for the taste of the beer? Are they paying for the packaging of the beer? Are they paying for, so again, options are limitless, but what are they paying for? Right? What are they paying for in the IoT device? And that is the minimum viable product element. And if that is ready, you should go to market. You should not try to wait for ultimate uh, the ultimate product because there is no such thing as the ultimate product.
Okay. Yeah, step by step improvise possible.
Yes.
To a continuation of this question, like even like when people go for raising the fund, no, sometimes initial time whenever they get first hand help, they try to dilute lots of equity sometimes because they are not much aware of it. What kind of
Sure.
suggestion you have for them, like what they should do at the time and whom they should consult or something?
Again, it depends on how much money you need and why you need it, right? I would always say if you're getting money, raise as much money as you can, right? Don't dilution. Ultimately, you can have 100% of a grape or 10% of a watermelon, right? 10% of a watermelon is always better than 100% of a grape. So focus on building it big. If you're getting the right investors, it's okay to dilute money. If you're raising a large amount of money from the right people, look at who you're raising money from. If they're able to give you strategic value in the long term, it always makes sense. So if they are in your space, for example, if an Amazon wants to invest in Neil's device, right, and they want to take 50% of the 50% of the company, I would tell Neil maybe do it.
Yeah.
Because Amazon would then give you a market worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
So ultimately, who is investing? Why are they investing? And what can you get out of the investment? Those are important questions. If you're raising money from, say, friends and family, and you're giving them 50% of the company, that's not a good idea because what can they add to the business? What value will they add? So if you're getting money from a strategic investor who's going to add long-term value to the business, not a bad idea to dilute. In fact, it's a good idea to dilute because even they are then going to be working with you to build the business.
Really great. Thanks.
Most welcome. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Enjoyed
Just
this
one last question, Rishikesh. Tell us about your future plans. Are you going to do Vakil Search only for India? Or you want to take it abroad?
So we are definitely going to take it abroad. We are going to replicate what we have done in India in multiple other geographies. We see a road to becoming a legal tech, a legal tech giant. Right? I don't want to use the word unicorn because it's popular and much bandied about, but we want to become a legal tech giant. We want to be one of the largest players, not just in India but in Asia and probably in the world in this space. And we want to do it by focusing on our customers and focusing on technology. So those are the two things that we want to do.
Excellent, Rishikesh. We wish you all the best for that.
Thank you so much, Antanu. And any of you, if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, please reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Thank you
Happy
so
to
much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And I'm sure all these guys will be in touch with you. We hope to host you in person at some point. I mean, the whole point, we did want you to visit our center and the university and interact, but I guess this is the best we can do in this current times. So with that, I'll say thank you very much to you, all our attendees, and wish you all the best. And stay safe, stay healthy, right?
Thank you so much, Shantanu, and everybody else the same. Right? Stay safe, stay healthy,
Yep.
and hope our paths cross in the near future.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
very
sir.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Rishikesh.